King Felipe VI confronts crisis. Princess Leonor's royal romance shattered. Everyone thought the path was clear. Princess Leonor had done everything Spain expected of her. Military training progressing without fault. Public appearances growing steadier and more confident. A future queen learning, step by step, how to carry the weight of a nation without showing the strain. From the outside, the story looked controlled, structured, calm. But here is the truth most people did not see coming. The greatest crisis facing Spain's monarchy in 2025 did not come from politics, protests, or parliament. It came from the quiet collapse of a private bond the palace hoped would never become fragile. And when that bond began to break, King Felipe VI was forced to step in not as a monarch but as a father who understood exactly how dangerous silence can be. Because this was never just about romance. It was about whether Spain's future queen could hold on to her heart without losing herself to the crown. By early 2025, Leonor's life was split cleanly down the middle. On one side stood duty, discipline, and destiny. On the other stood something softer, deeply personal, and carefully protected from the public eye. For a long time, she managed both. That balance is what made this moment so shocking. Because the first signs of collapse were not rumors or leaks. They were changes in her presence. Shorter smiles, longer pauses before speaking, a seriousness that felt heavier than before. Those closest to her noticed it immediately. This raises the first question. How does someone raised to lead an entire nation admit they are emotionally overwhelmed? The answer is that they usually do not. Not until it becomes impossible to hide. Leonor had been raised in a royal household shaped by caution. King Felipe understood scandal better than anyone. Queen Letizia understood pressure, scrutiny, and emotional discipline. Neither of them expected their daughter to be untouched by love. They expected her to be careful. And she was. The relationship at the center of this story was never reckless. It grew slowly, privately, and under strict boundaries. No public gestures, no declarations, no illusions that life would ever be simple. But even the most carefully guarded relationships change once adulthood fully arrives. As Leonor's responsibilities expanded in 2025, something shifted that could not be managed with rules alone. Time disappeared, privacy shrank, expectations multiplied, and love, which once felt grounding, began to feel strained. This is where the narrative most people get wrong. The romance did not shatter because it was forbidden. It shattered because it demanded space that the crown could no longer offer honestly. King Felipe began to notice before anyone else. Not through reports or advisors, but through familiarity. A father recognizes when his child carries weight in their chest they don't know how to release. Conversations between father and daughter became quieter. Less ceremonial, more personal. At first, he listened. Then he asked questions that could not be avoided. Are you sleeping enough? Are you present when you're with him? Do you still feel like yourself? Leonor answered carefully, not with lies, but with half-truths, the kind people use when they are still convincing themselves everything can be fixed. But it wasn't. This is where the crisis truly begins. Not with a confrontation, but with realization. For the first time, King Felipe saw his daughter struggling not with duty, but with the emotional cost of carrying two futures that no longer aligned. Here is the cruel truth of modern monarchy. Love is allowed, but it must adapt to the institution. And when it cannot, something has to give. Leonor was trying to be everything at once. A daughter, a partner, a future head of state. A young woman navigating emotion. A symbol expected to remain unshakable. That kind of pressure doesn't explode. It compresses. Queen Letizia, watching closely, saw a familiar pattern. She had lived under relentless media scrutiny herself. She knew how isolating it feels when your inner world has no room to breathe. She didn't accuse. She didn't forbid. She asked one question that changed everything. Is this relationship still protecting you emotionally, or are you protecting it at your own expense? Leonor did not answer immediately. Because deep down, she already knew. What had once been comforting was becoming heavy. Moments apart were filled with longing. Moments together were filled with anxiety about time ending too soon. Instead of restoring energy, the relationship began to drain it. That realization is devastating for anyone. But for a future queen, it comes with an added layer of guilt. Guilt for wanting something she cannot prioritize. Guilt for knowing love alone is not enough to survive royal life. When King Felipe finally confronted the situation directly, it was not dramatic. No raised voices, no ultimatum, just clarity. He reminded Leonor of something few people ever tell future rulers plainly. The crown does not destroy relationships overnight. It erodes them slowly when they are already fragile. His fear was not scandal. His fear was emotional damage that could follow her for decades. He spoke as a man who had witnessed the consequences of unresolved pressure within royal families close and far. This conversation did not end the romance. It stripped away illusion. And without illusion, the truth became unavoidable. The relationship could not grow naturally while being constantly paused, reshaped, and restricted by duty. Neither Leonor nor her partner was at fault. The structure itself was incompatible. Distance widened after that moment. Communication became heavier. What was once effortless began to feel like negotiation. This is the most painful stage. When two people still care, but can no longer move forward without hurting each other. Leonor began to pull inward. Not publicly, but emotionally. She focused harder on training, duties, and preparation. Outwardly, she looked stronger than ever. Inwardly, she was letting go. When the relationship finally fractured, it did not explode into headlines. It dissolved quietly, respectfully, and with profound sadness. There were no winners, only acceptance. Here is where the story turns. Because instead of breaking her, this moment reshaped Leonor's understanding of power forever. She learned that leadership is not just about making decisions for others. It is about choosing survival over sentiment when the weight becomes too heavy. In the weeks that followed, her presence changed again. But this time, it was different. She appeared steadier, not colder, clearer. Those close to the palace described a young woman who had crossed an internal threshold. Someone who had felt loss and lived through it without spectacle. King Felipe watched closely. What he saw reassured him. His daughter was not numb. She was maturing. This is what most audiences misunderstand. The shattered romance was not a failure of character. It was a collision between personal truth and inherited obligation. And Leonor chose honesty over denial. Public whispers began to surface. Analysts speculated. Supporters debated. Critics questioned whether the crown still allowed humanity. But within Zarzuela Palace, the understanding was painfully simple. This crisis saved her from deeper harm later. Leonor emerged more aware of her limits, more protective of her mental balance, and more prepared for the emotional solitude that leadership demands. She did not reject love. She learned when to step back from it. King Philippe's role in this moment will likely remain misunderstood by many. Some will see control. Others will see interference. What history will eventually see as prevention. He intervened not to command, but to protect his daughter's ability to rule without emotional collapse. That distinction matters, because Spain's future queen will face far greater storms than a broken romance. And now, she knows what it costs to survive one. This chapter did not end with heartbreak alone. It ended with clarity. Leonor did not lose herself to the crown. She redefined how she would carry it. And that may be the most important preparation of all. Because a queen who has learned loss without bitterness is far more dangerous to underestimate than one who has never been tested. Spain did not witness a scandal. It witnessed the quiet formation of resilience. And that story is only beginning.